Hi folks, so here I am in a village in Blaydon in Oxfordshire. Hope I've pronounced that correctly, and I'm meeting up with Brendan and Mercy, and we're going to be talking to Chris Lambrianou, whose association with the Krays is legendary. He also ended up in prison due to his involvement with them, but is a magnificent man, a very spiritual man who turned his life around after that experience in prison. And he's asked us to meet him at this church. We're going to film inside the church. And outside, and I'm actually standing beside it now, is the grave of probably the greatest ever Englishman, Sir Winston Churchill, which is really surprising that he's just buried here in an ordinary graveyard. He's there with his mother and father, and you would expect him to be in sort of a cathedral in Westminster or something like that. But Chris is going to be talking about that later, and also to have a look at an unknown grave where some soldiers who died and gave their lives for their country. He's going to be talking about that too. So here he is with Brendan, Chris Lambrianou. Hi folks, very, very proud to have an absolutely fantastic guest, and it's Chris Lambrianou. Brendan, what a chap this guy is.
I've been looking forward to this one. This was a very, very close friend of Dave's, who Dave looked up to in many ways, especially spiritually. Mm-hmm. And this is a man who's got so much for young people to learn off, and just tries his best to make people's lives better. So I feel honoured to be able to come and speak to him in such a wonderful surroundings. You know, we're in a place called St Martin's Church, mm-hmm. which is absolutely beautiful. It's a real privilege to be in here, and thank you so much for your time, Chris.
But it's a place of great peace as well.
It is a very peaceful place.
And what's amazing, this church has actually got the grave of Sir Winston Churchill.
I mean, he didn't choose to be buried at Blenheim Castle. He didn't choose to be buried at Westminster Abbey. After he had the service in London, he came all the way up here. And it's a public highway, people can walk up and down, visit the grave. Mm-hmm. But when we leave here, mm-hmm. I've got to show you another grave, because just over there I found a grave where two young men gave their lives mm-hmm. For their country. Churchill lived a long, good life. He gets flowers put on his grave all the time. But these two young guys, they you know, nobody's done much for him anyway. Mm-hmm. So what I decided to do was, I've got Mickey, who is a good friend of mine, to come up and clean the grave, the stone.
Oh, wonderful.
Which he did. Mm-hmm. And another friend of mine, Billy Smith, and myself, we bought flowers and other bits and pieces and put them on the grave. So, but the church actually said I didn't have a right to do that. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do it from the bottom of my heart, to show respect for the two men who give their country so someone like me could live. But, you know, but anyway, you'll see the grave and you'll see that what I'm actually talking about.
Yeah, it'd be lovely also to
that'd be something we'll look at in a moment.
About the Winston Churchill grave, we'd love to see that, wouldn't we?
Yeah,
as well?
We're definitely going to have a look at that. But we're going to delve back into Chris's very, very colourful and knowledgeable past, and he's going to give us some good life lessons, I think, just by listening.
Did you have much guidance when you were a child?
I had a very loving father and a very loving mother, but I came up in a large family, mm-hmm. and coming up in a large family, you get put to the back. So, you know, the youngsters go to the forward and all that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I felt sometimes very much alone. Mm-hmm. I wanted to belong.
For people who don't know, Chris, how did you get caught up in that 60s crime scene with the Kray brothers and all that?
But with it all, I mean, see, what happened was, I come up in the war years. Yeah. Born in 1938, 1945, the war stopped. And then there was kind of this great enthusiasm for freedom and peace and everything else. But everything around you was decimated. Buildings, bomb sites everywhere. They were our playground.
Yeah.
You know, just go out and get mucky and do this and do that. So, you know, I got with all the bad kids. So we go stealing and we do this and do that, nicking lead off the roofs and all that kind of thing. We didn't know any better.
And it was quite easy then.
Yes, it was quite easy, but my mum and dad were both working 5 kids to feed, roof. And I came home from school one day and the roof in our house had collapsed. And they put us in a workhouse over in South London. So I was in a workhouse for a year and then went from the workhouse to a halfway house in Victoria.
What year was this, Chris?
This was around about sort of 1950.
Wow, 1950, they still had workhouses.
Yeah, that's right. So and then from there, we went to the halfway house in Victoria and then moved us into the East End.
What was it like being in the workhouse? What was the
Well, I mean, I found that very strange because they didn't put us in rooms with my mum and my dad. My dad couldn't even go there. He was a visitor. We were put in a big dormitory with all these men. I mean, there must have been about 100 men in all these beds. And we were like 2 young kids, me and my brother. And we were there. There was no nonsense. I mean, that kind of thing weren't on. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
But it was to be with all these older people. We didn't have anything in common with them. And we felt we weren't part of anything. We were just chucked into the deep end.
Did your family not come in? Did your parents not come in and see you, or anything?
Oh yeah, saw them all the time.
Yeah.
But we never, we weren't a family. We weren't like that, like we should have been, because the authority said, well, the mum and the younger children will go there, and the older children will go here. So 7 and 8, you understand what I'm saying? It was different, and I can remember when I go to school, I'd walk miles to St Patrick's, a Catholic school. You know, right the way down near Oxford Street it was when I used to go to school. But you know, that's what you did. There was no cars, nobody driving you up in a Range Rover or anything else like that. In them days, you did it, the family did it. And we had radios, we didn't have television. And you go and buy an accumulator and listen to the radio, Dick Barton's Special Agent, and listen to the news and stuff like that. So then coming out of that and then going to the workhouse, which was difficult, and I can remember a kid was bullying my brother, and I just lost it. And that taught me a lesson, that sometimes you had to be violent. You had to totally lose it, and I mean lose it.
To get respect, yeah.
To get respect. It wasn't about respect, it was about protecting.
Protection, but
your
just
children.
to give you that protection and make people be a little bit wary.
Yeah.
That's what you had to do in that era, yeah.
So I
Were
learned.
you naturally like an aggressive child?
Yeah, that's right. So I learned about all them things. Then we went to Victoria. I was carrying suitcases down from the bus station to the train station, give you a shilling or something else like that. So I learned to work out on the streets. And then I went to, we got into the East End, and England was a bit racist at the time, believe me. And they had on the old houses and things like that, but boarding houses and little hotels, no Irish and no dogs. There weren't many black people here, there weren't many Asians or anything else like that. England had just won the war and everything else.
My dad come here in 58
Yeah,
from Ireland, and he remembers them times.
Them times.
Yeah.
And so there was that kind of thing, which was a bit offensive. Then you had the Americans, and that was good as gold. They give you sweets and chewing gum and all the rest of it, and that was great. But then got into the East End and got into the way of life, and I went to school, but my name stood out. You know, I weren't English, fully English. I was born here. I spoke Cockney, but I weren't English. What's that funny name you've got? You understand what I'm saying? I'd be fighting with kids and stuff like that. And I remember I had a fight with a kid. We'd been out doing a garden. We had a bit of a garden on a bomb site at school. And I liked this kid. Him and I had a fight. And we finished up outside of Greengrocer's, having a right round. The greengrocer gave me £500. He said, you know...
Fair play,
He watched the fight.
It
was fair, you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
In them days, there was no knives.
Yeah.
You know, it was like you went out on the street, you had a straightener, and you were pals afterwards, you understand, it was the way things worked. And, but gradually, I wanted to fit in, so I got into petty crime.
Well, what were the sort of crimes that you committed
Yeah,
to start with?
well, the first one was I got out of my parents' control. I was stealing lead and doing this and all sorts of different things. I mean, I learned to swim was in the cut, in the canal. No swimming baths or anything like that. And so, I kind of found myself, distanced from my mum and dad. Although I was living at home, my life was out on the street.
Yeah.
And anyway, I got arrested. They took me down to Old Street Police Station, and I was taken up to Basil Enriquez at
Aldgate East.
Aldgate East.
Yeah.
So I go there, and this Basil Enriquez turns around and says, "We think it best that you go to a Catholic approved school." And I went to St Vincent's in Dartford, Kent, Temple Hill.
Yeah, I know.
Still remember it.
Yeah.
And it was pretty rough there. The brothers like really, really tough men, you understand what I'm saying? So I'm walking in and all these kids said to me, "Hey you, who do you support?" And I went, "Support, what do you mean?" They said, "Football." I said, "Well, I don't support anybody. You've got to support somebody." So I said, what games are they? They said, "Well, everybody supports Arsenal here." I said, "Are there any other teams?" Yeah, they said, "The Lily Whites." Well, my mum's name was Lily, so I support them. And that's all that. So we walked on further on, a boxing ring, and there were a couple of kids fighting, and this brother said to me, brother Francis said, "Go on, in that ring." And I had to get in, put a pair of gloves on, and start boxing. And that was the way of life. But then I was there about 3 months, and a group of us decided to do a runner. We got out in the field, 6 of us there was.
Can I ask you, Chris, did you ever get caned at school?
Come on, St Vincent's, believe me.
So I got caned the first day at my secondary school.
I didn't stop getting it, and I'll tell you what, somebody said, if you get caned, put orange peel on your arse. Rub orange peel on
you got it on your bum in them days. We used to get it on the hands.
No, on your bum, you bent over.
Yeah.
And he was running at you with a cane, and what he did, he lifted it up.
Yeah.
So it caught you underneath the cheeks. And I'll tell you what, the welts would come up like that.
I know what it felt like on your hands.
Honestly, it did. But that was a regular thing. And I'll tell you, the food was absolutely rotten. They'd feed you anything, and it'd make you sick. So what I used to do was give somebody the food and give them the sweet as well. It was like, so you learn different things how to manoeuvre around life. But anyway, I did the 3 years at St Vincent's, and I came out and they put me straight in the army.
You used to leave school at 14 then, didn't you?
Yeah, no, 15.
15 was it? Yeah.
And then when I came out of there, they put me straight in the army. So I went to work. I went to the Royal Pioneer Corps because I had a perforated ear boxing, and I spent about 6 months in the army, and they discharged me. And so then I came back out on the street. I didn't have a trade or anything. I looked for work, but you mentioned the name, and right away, oh no, don't want no foreigners here, you understand what I'm saying? And things like that. So I just got further into crime.
You were judged on your name, weren't
That's
you? Just getting a job, even for Catholics.
My dad, I said to him, "Dad, what do you want to be?" And my dad said, "All I ever want to be is a decent citizen." You never hear that anymore. But that was his, he worked hard, he was a decent, kind, lovely man. And so I came out of the army, then I got 6 months for having a tear up with the police. Then I got in charge, another charge, I went into prison for 3 years for blowing safes.
When you say you had a tear up with the police, well, what happened?
Well, the police, I mean, back in the day, they were all ex-army men. They weren't like they are now. Gentle souls, you understand what I'm saying? Back in them days...
They give you a clip round here.
They give you a clip round here or whatever. And you had a social network, not social workers, a social network. It was all the old grannies. If they knew anything, and they did know everything that was going on.
they told the copper.
Yeah, they told the copper or told your mum and dad. So, you had to be very careful, all that. So anyway, but I finished up. I got involved in a bit of business, and I was blowing post office safe in Stoke Newington.
Your army training come in well then,
It
Chris,
did, it came in, and so, you know, I've got 2 years for that, which I spent in the Burn. And then I come out and thought myself, prison isn't going to work for me, I'm going to do things right. And I got to meet some really good people. All right, criminals, people who, you know, knew how to earn a few quid. But the thing was, we all kept our mouth shut.
Yeah.
You didn't tell anybody
And there was
anything.
no
They
drugs
didn't
in
need
society at this time, Chris, was there?
There
was no drugs, was there, in society?
No, there wasn't. And you knew the people you were working with you could trust. So I came out, decided I wouldn't go back. And I looked at London, and London was a rip-off. Yeah, if you wanted to buy an ice cream, it's going to cost you £3.
Yeah.
Or if you wanted to go anywhere, it was money, money, money. And I looked at all the big clubs, and I got involved with one or two faces, but there was nothing in it. And I went up to Birmingham to meet somebody up there, and I got involved with some of the lads who was up there, some of the faces, the London faces. And they put you into this and that, and the long firms were all going at the time, which was very, very nice.
Yeah.
And if you're in a long firm, oh no, I want a Jaguar, I want a Mark 10, I want this, I want that. And so life was excellent. But the people I was mixing with were educated.
Yeah.
They were from all nationalities, Greeks, Jewish, all that kind of thing. But with English kids, men, who knew the business, you understand what I'm saying? And they'd use you and you'd use them. That was part of the game. And I came down to London, and I knew a lot of the gambling clubs up there, because it'd just taken off gambling, and the car industry had just taken off in Birmingham. And my brother Tony, I didn't know it, but he got himself involved with the Krays.
Why?
And so he said to me, you know, they'd like to meet you, Chris. I went, no, don't want to meet them. And he, what do you mean? I said, well, listen, from what I'm hearing, you know, it's not sensible. They hurt more members of the firm
than they did anyone else.
They did anybody else. They turned on people. And what they did, they wanted people who were earning money, like thieves, people doing this, doing gambling, doing all that kind of thing. That they were hitting them kind of people. A lot of the business they were getting from the clubs and stuff like that, they didn't march in there and start smashing the place up. The people went to them.
Yeah.
They said, you come and mind it. But it was different with the chaps
Yeah.
earning money. They knew everybody earning different money. Anyway, I met a guy who I knew in Borstal called Connie White. He said, Chris, he said, I've got some business going down with some bonds. Would you be interested? So these were American bonds. I said, I might have somebody interested in them. And I arranged to meet him in a Blind Beggar. So I go down there, my car's in the garage, so I had to get a bus down there. And I go in, he don't turn up. So I've waited long enough. I walked out, standing at the bus stop, and Ronnie Bender came by. Ronnie Bender was a guy who'd been in the military, regular soldier.
Very famous man, Ronnie Bender.
Good friend, decent man. Yeah. And he pulled up and he went, Chris, what are you doing now? I said, I'm waiting, waiting to catch a bus. He said, I thought you'd be... I said, no, my car's in the garage. He said, come and jump in, I'll give you a lift. And he gave me a lift home and we were chatting. He said, I'm with the firm now and all the rest of it. I said, oh yeah. I said, well, good luck, Ron, and see you and thanks for the lift. That was it. An hour later, I knock on the door, Ronnie Bender. I said, yeah, what are you doing here, Ron? He went, the twins would like to see you. No, I said, listen, Ron, I don't want to meet him. He said, Chris, he said, you've got to come down. I said, no, I ain't. If you want a few quid, have it, but tell him I'm not in. He went, I can't do that. He said, Tony's down there, my brother Tony. So I go down there. Hello, Chris, how's it going? In a corner they are, sitting at a table. And I'll go in there. Very nice. Polite. We're opening a club in Leicester. Charlie's up there. And we wonder if you bring some people over from Birmingham, the gambling clubs over to our place in Leicester. So I still think I can do that. And we'd be very much obliged if you would. So anyway, have a drink and all the rest of it, and away I went. And I met Charlie, liked him, very nice guy, polite, totally different to what I'd heard about them. And so I said, come up to Birmingham. I said, I'll introduce you to 3 people. I took him over there, he met some of the faces from London and all the rest of it. And a friend of mine had a big mansion, underground car parks, everything else. It was something special. I don't know how many million it'd be worth today. It had a shower there that would hold 12 people. So it was like a football club. Anyway, went over there and he met these friends of mine. He said, Chris, I've never seen nothing like this before. I said, and you think London's got it all? I said, no, it's got nothing like up here. I said, the car industry's taking off. I said, people earn a lot of money, law firms, gambling, the gambling clubs are all going. He said, I like it. And I took him to 1 or 2 or 3 clubs. They were nothing like the London clubs. Plenty of women, you know, and it was fun times. Rock and roll, it never forgets, you understand what I'm saying? So it was, you know, very characteristic. So he was quite happy and they were quite happy with it, everything. There were little things they asked me to do for them, and which I did. But to be honest with you, I'm not the kind of person who wants a firm around me.
No, you was happy on your own little thing, yeah.
I could do things on my own. Yeah. It's private to me. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know who I'm mixing with. I know how deeply I'm involved and all the rest of it. And I keep my mouth shut. And the people you're with, they respect that. Because if you got that, it's goodbye. They don't want to know. You understand what I'm saying? But it's like one day I went down a Latin Quarter and there was a guy down there, Bobby Dixie, talking to him. He told me like things had been a bit hard, he'd having a bit of skin. I'd had a touch. He went out to the toilet, I followed him out and gave him 100 quid. Just give me, here Bob, take it easy. Went out and carried on the drink. He come up, he said, Chris, you didn't know how to do that. He said, but I am, got through difficult times, he said, so it really helps me. In a matter of a month, he got in touch with me. There was a bit of work that was going on pavement. I went down there and we did a little bit of business. That's the way it worked. You looked after them. It's like the twins. What they'd do in the pub, they'd have a glass on the table. Those that had money in the pocket, they'd put in the glass. So they didn't have any money, were never looked on upon as... Because back in the day, if you didn't buy the drinks when it came to your turn...
Yeah, it was a bad thing.
It was a bad thing.
Yeah. Yes.
So that covered that, you understand?
I just wanted to ask you, take you back a bit. When you first met the Krays, what was your impression of them? How did they look and were they frightening?
I read them on their reputation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't speak good of them. You understand what I mean? It was a thieves' world. It was a kind of a world of, you know, the chaps all knew each other, the pavement artists, the people who kind of, the key merchants, Johnny the Bosch and all them kind of people. They were characters, and they knew, they didn't spread it around. It was like quiet, or have a word in your ear, or something else like that. It was a different world. So I already knew an awful lot about the Krays, and what I heard, I didn't like.
And was you frustrated that Tony had got him heavily involved?
Yeah, I would, because I'd have never met him if it hadn't been with Tony.
Yeah.
So when Tony would finish up at the Old Bailey, and we're living by the code. It's not about being frightened of them.
Yeah.
We're living by the code because we've been mixing with all the top boys.
Yeah.
I mean, there was the South London firms, which was Train Robbers, Freddie Foreman, all them kind of people. But there was our side as well, which was the Nashes, was all the different faces. You know, like I mentioned the Bosch, there was Richie Anderson, there was kind of, you know, all different faces who were well respected, very calm, decent people, that wouldn't rob anybody. You know, I understand. They'd take off of them that had it.
Over the respectability.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, no, the Krays I didn't want to know, to be honest with you. But anyway, I did help him. I did got people over there, and I showed Charlie another way of life in the what's the name in the long firms and everything else, and the people that were really earning good money.
Charlie was a nice man.
He was a very nice man.
He was actually a very good man, Charlie, wasn't he?
But then I come down to London, because a guy up in up in Birmingham said to me, Chris, he said, I'm going down to London this week. Why don't you come down? I went, no, I was down last week, and I want to leave it out. And he went, come on. He said, you've never met my brother. I've never met your. Come on, come down. I went, no, Ray, I'm not coming down. Anyway, I gave in the end, came down, went over to Mile End and met up with Ray and his brother, took Tony down there. We had a nice evening. We finished up in the Queen's Arms, having a drink there in the Hackney Road. So I want to go to the West End, because that's where the birds were, the drink was, and there was a place called the Bestseller down there, which I wanted to go to.
Right.
Tony went, no, let's go to Regency, They've never been there. I said, look, the Regency's Saturday Night Gangsters, the last place we want to go at the time. Please, he said, come on, they've never been there. Oh, all right then, giving in as usual, just to please everybody. So I go along there, we're having a drink. The next thing is a general invitation to a party. And Jack comes over, he said, Chris, you going to that party? I said, yeah, why not? You know, I didn't want to go, I wanted to go to West End, but you know, the general thing was to go. So, went to get in my car, couldn't get in my car because it was blocked in. Saturday night, there were so many cars there, just around the Regency Club. So I got in the car, Jack's car, and we drove round there. Went to the door was opened. Oh, hello, Chris, hello, Jack, hello, Tony, and all the rest of it. Went in, and he went running down the stairs, Jack The Hat. And I got down the bottom of the stairs, and I look in the room, there's an argument going on between Reggie and Jack. I didn't know the division between them, because the previous week we'd been in the Regency restaurant having a meal, and Jack came over and joined us. Reggie Kray came in, sat down and talked to us. So I said, Jack, I want to word with you. They went down the back of the restaurant, and everything was there. He came back on Jack to the table. He went, I'm back on a firm. And Reggie came up. I said, I never even know he was on it. And Reggie came up, he went, are you guys all right? And he paid the bill, which was generous of him, you understand? So it was a nice atmosphere. We all took off, we had a good night. But then when Jack goes into this room, there's an argument, Blonde Carroll's, there's an argument between him and Reggie over something. Reggie's been on the drink, also been on speed. So it turns out there's an argument and a gun comes out, but the gun don't work. I didn't come down here for this.
Wow.
I don't want any part of it. I said to Connie White, I said, Con, I don't want this. I said, I'm going. He went, Chris, he said, listen. He said, it's all right, it's just a small problem. Anyway, Ronnie Kray came out, he said, what's the matter with Chris? He said he don't want to be part of this. He said he came down there for a drink. And Ronnie Kray said, I'd had quite a few drinks by then. He said, take him home. So Connie White had drove me home and he went, Chris, don't go back there. Don't go back there, stay away. So I went in, my dad's sitting at the table reading the paper. And all right, Dad, have a cup of tea with him and that kind of thing. And I thought, my car's at the Regency Club. I've got to go up and get that. So I jump out the back, pull a cab, go to the Regency Club, get my car, and I thought I better go and see if Tony's all right at the, what's the name, at Don Carroll's. So I go there, knock at the door, and Ronnie Bender comes up, opens the door. I said, Tony down there, Ronnie went, no, he said, he's gone. I said, all right, mate, see you later. I went to work. He said, don't leave me, Chris. I went, what do you mean? He said, they've killed him. I said, what? He said, they've killed Jack. I said, well, where are they? He said, they've run away. What they did, they took off and left Ronnie Bender there.
Yeah, left him with a body, yeah.
Left him with a body. This is a decent guy. We're not talking about, a person who kind of... He's a soldier. He was a regular soldier. He was highly respected. He was a nice person. And I said, well, what are you going to do? He said, I don't know. I said, what are your instructions? He said, to throw the body over my shoulder, carry it up to the railway bridge on Erin Road, where they were, which is about maybe a couple of 100 yards away, throw the body over so it'd get mashed up by a train. I said, across the way, I said, there's a bagel shop where they make the bagels. I said, it's going to come on top for you. So I said, look, Ronnie, come in. I go in, go downstairs, and Jack's laying there, and I thought, no, he's just been knocked out, he'd be all right. But it weren't that way, the man was dead. And I said, Ronnie, listen, what do you know about tidying things? He said, I don't know, I've never done it before, been in this situation. And I thought, well, how could two people kill a man
and leave it like that,
and leave this guy who's a total innocent involved? Anyway, I go in the into the kitchen, and I find some socks in there. So I put a pair of socks on my hands and give him a pair of socks to put on, and we start cleaning the place up all the way round. Now we've got to move the body from the downstairs basement up into the hallway. I hear a knock on the door, I go upstairs, it's Blonde Carol. And I've got a bowl of bloody water in my hand. And she said, Chris, what are you doing here? I said, there's been a bit of a row. I said, we're tidying up the place, don't want a mess for you. I said, but go in the bedroom and don't come out. And I went in there and I got a couple of eider-downs, but there was two babies asleep in the cots. The Krays are supposed to be looking after them. Wow. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, that is mental.
She left the house with them in charge of everything.
So they were the babysitters.
Pardon?
They were the babysitters.
Yeah, there were babysitters, some babysitters, believe me. Yeah. Anyway, what happened was, they got the eider-downs, got them downstairs, put Jack on the eider-down, well, there weren't two eider, but one, put the eider-down, wrapped him up in it. Things were as tidy as we could make them. We wiped all the blood up and everything else like that. And now we get the body upstairs into the hallway. Knock on the door. Yeah, it's Tony. Come back. So anyway, now there's an argument about the body. We're going to move it away, but it's vehicles going to the the bagel shop.
Yeah.
On a regular basis about 1 o'clock in the morning now. So we've got to wait for a break to be able to move the body into the boot of the car. So we get the break and we take the body and we try to put it in the boot of the car. You can't put a dead body in the boot of a car, believe me, it won't happen. So we put him on the back seat. Now there's an argument about Ronnie. I said, you drive that car because I don't want Tony driving it. And Ronnie Bender said, I'm not driving it, Chris. I can't drive it.
And whose car was it, Chris?
Pardon?
Whose car
was it? It was Jack's car.
Oh, it was Jack The Hat's car, yeah.
And he turned around and he said, I can't do it, Chris. And it came from there. I heard him. And Tony started to it. Tony got in the car. We got behind in my car and we followed him all the way. And we go over to South London. Along Mare Street, before we get to the bridge, or the underpass, what's his name? Tony gets police car dropping behind him. I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest with you. If they stop that car,
that's game over. Yeah.
You understand? We ain't going to let that happen.
Yeah.
But fortunately enough, further down Mare Street, they turned off where the police station was. and Tony kept going. We go through the tunnel, Rother Ive, over the other side, but we lose Tony, so I'm driving around looking for him, and his car ran out of petrol, Jack's car ran out of petrol outside the church. And
That's
there was
mental,
all,
isn't it?
Yeah, all kind of confetti out where there'd been a wedding that day. Oh God almighty, what's going on here? Anyway, we left it there, we drove back through the tunnel and dropped Ronnie Bender off. I don't know what happened from there on, but what I learned was Ronnie Bender rang Charlie Kray. Charlie Kray rings the twins. Where is the body? What have they done with it? Where have they put it? Oh no, it's a lot different from putting it over the railway bridge. You understand the message?
Yeah.
Now they're a bit concerned about where the body is. None of us know anything about disposing of bodies and all the rest of it. You understand what I'm saying? It don't happen. Anyway, the outcome of that was that it was dropped on Freddie Foreman's manor. We didn't know nothing about where Freddie lived or anything else like that. So, you know, they then have got to tell Freddie Foreman that the body's on his manor. Because now he's we're all blind.
Yeah.
So these very great gangsters, these thinkers, these people who
Just dumped it on everyone else.
With a mafia, they dropped us all in it. You understand what I'm saying? In a moment of madness, he who rides a tiger cannot dismount.
Yeah.
Because if he does, the tiger will eat him. Now the tiger is not only eating them, he's eating us as well. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're all in a bad predicament now. None of us know what's going on, only them. Anyway, I'm going round and talking to different people who were there and I tell them to keep their mouth shut. And anyway, what happened, the body was moved and that was it. But I'm still, I don't know this at the time, I'm looking at the paper to see if anything's in the newspapers, but there wasn't anything. So anyway, everything was smooth, it was running round, but everybody knew what had gone on. Because there were too many people down.
Yeah.
It
spreads like wildfire.
That's right, it spread like.
Yeah.
And it's like the Cornell thing, when Ronnie went in the blind beggar
shot him,
and shot him dead.
Everyone knew that night. Yeah.
Well, according to statistics, there was 1.5 million people in there that night.
That's right, yeah. I didn't realise the pub was so small.
No, that's right. Yeah.
You were there,
Everyone I ever met was in there that night.
Yeah. Everybody was there, apparently. So, now, it didn't take long, maybe around about a year. Then I heard about the twins getting nicked, other people getting nicked, but the Jack the Hat thing doesn't come up. So we all think we're pretty safe. And we're not saying nothing, everything's quiet. I'm leaving the Cedar Club and I'm going to another club called the Elbow Room in Birmingham.
Albert Chapman's place, was it?
Yeah. All of a sudden, now you know it, everybody knew it, but I'm the one who took Charlie Kray there, and then everybody gets to know it. It became one of his favourite places.
Yeah.
So anyway, and he's a nice person,
Yeah, Albert's a lovely man. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm driving down the hill to the Elbow Room, and as I'm going down, all of a sudden these cars appear from everywhere, and I'm surrounded. They pull the shooters out and everything else like that. Tell me to put my hands on top of my car roof and my back to them. They do a search on me and all that kind of thing. But originally I think it's a setup. I think, this is an argument with different people, but it ain't.
It is the real old Bill, yeah.
Yeah, it's old Bill.
Yeah.
So they take me into, the police station there. And they turn around and say to me, get me in there. There's the London police there and the Birmingham police. So I said, well, look, can you tell me why you've got me here? You pulled me up, you've got guns out and everything else like that. I'm an innocent man, I'm going from one club to another, and I find myself in this trouble. And I said, what have I done? and they said, effing virgins out of season. I won't swear because we were in the church.
Yeah.
And so that was it. So when I get down there, instead of taking me to Scotland Yard, they take me to another place. It's across the Westminster Bridge. It's a place called Tintagel House, facing the House of Parliament. Take me up the stairs, up to this place. There's Nipper Reid, there's Cater, and another detective. And they said, we understand you went to a party. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. They said, yeah, you went to a party and there was an argument. And I said, I don't know, I'm blind to this. So it went on and on, they asked me questions and all that. And I looked at a blackboard that was there was all these photographs of different kind of villains and police and everything else. That was my story. I don't know nothing, I don't know what you're talking about. I live up in Birmingham, that's where I was, and all the rest of it. Oh, very well. Nipper Reid gives me his card. He said, now, what do you think about this? He said, give me a call and talk to me. He said, neither you nor your brothers will face any charges. I want to know what went on that night. I said, I still don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Reid. Anyway, let me go. So I'll get a cab and I go up to Violet Krays' house. Knock on the door, Violet invites me in, and I said, look, Violet, the police have arrested me, brought me down to London, didn't take me to Scotland Yard, took me to a place called Tintagel House. Just let the twins know what's going on. Chris, she said, please, you've got to go and tell them all their friends have deserted them. I said, but Violet, it's the worst thing I can do. They'll know I've been there. She said, please, Chris, please. You come and speak to them, let them know. I've lost my mother quite recently, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and I'm hearing a mum cry out to me.
Yeah.
Please help out my boys, you understand what I'm saying? It was like she was talking about two little boys, you understand what I mean? Their friends had deserted them and everything else like that she was coming out with. And she's a very nice lady, take it from me. She loved her boys. And I gave in the end. So anyway, Violet, Charlie, myself, and Reggie's girlfriend, Christine, came with us and went to Brixton. Go into the visiting room there and Charlie's gone like that. Shouldn't be here. Straight, he sees me, he's nodding, he's shaking his head. You should not be here. The twins, oh, lovely to see you, great, thank you very much, Chris, for being loyal and all the rest of it. I said, it's not about being loyal. I said, it's about being sensible. I said, I've seen what's on the blackboards, I've seen the people, they've got giving evidence and everything else. It was all mapped out there.
Set out really for you to see, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
So I said, I don't know what you're going to do, so we're going to get this done, and we promise you nothing will happen. I said, listen, I've been round, I've spoke to everybody, they're keeping quiet. I said, and we're sound, don't worry about us. We come from the old school, so they're okay. Anyway, out of that came the left the thing, and there's a photograph of Carol, Violet and Charlie leaving Brixton Prison, and they've all got tissues in their hand, always got handkerchiefs in their hand. You can see they're heartbroken.
Yeah.
Anyway, I go back up to Birmingham, and I'm up there a couple of weeks, and I get arrested again. And they bring me down to London, and they take me to Tintagel House. I mean, it's totally different there. Nipper Reid said, you went to see the twins in Brixton. Why'd you do that? I said, because their mother asked me to. I said, just to say hello. And, oh yeah. He said, and tell me this, he said. Are you prepared to talk to us about what happened that night? I said, I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Reid. and he's sitting at the desk and he's got playing around with a gun. He came around the table and he hit me over the head with a gun. And I said, I think he's looking for a reaction from me, and I'm not going to react, because then he's got me on something. At the present time, he hasn't got anything he can charge me with. And the next thing I know is he should charge him with murder.